Looking at the Barberini faun, first we need to look at the name for just a moment. Faun is the Roman equivalent of the Greek satyr. So looking at Pan was a satyr, so a wood spirit, etc. Barberini gives it a very powerful Italian family. And so originally when the sculpture done by an anonymous Greek person, which is currently housed in Munich, was found, the Vatican took it over, and one of the cardinals named Barberini had a likeness done of it and had it restored by Berini, and then it eventually made its way to Munich. Here we have a reproduction of that original work that was done by a French sculptor and is now on display in the Louvre. And it's called the Barberini faun at this point because it's meant to um, evoke what was done by Cardinal Barberini to restore the earlier work. So if we have a Vatican cardinal asking for this to be restored, how are we going to look at this from an obscenity point of view? And so it turns out in actuality this particular work has never been deemed obscene, either in Munich or in Paris when it was created. So what I wanted to do with this particular work was have us walk through the Miller test, imagining that this was going to be put on display in somewhere in the United States. It doesn't have to be Jacksonville. So what are we going to look at? Again, first, does it appeal to the Purian interest? So is this a sexualized sculpture? Is it meant to invoke sexual feelings? And so again, there's ways that you can answer yes with this and no. It all goes back to the evidence you provide. So let's go this time with the no first. Let's say that we're going to say this is not appealing to the Purian interest. We could say that it is meant to be an evocative of the woods. Again, obviously people walking around in the woods historically probably would not have been dressed, so it was not odd that he would be unclothed. We see him with an animal draped over him, so whether it's an animal skin that he's lying on, or one that he's recently killed, it looks like a knife is in his hand. So is this meant to be sexualized? We could say no. It is just an accurate view of how a hunter feels after killing, and kind of conquering nature. On the yes side of it, if we want to say yes, this does appeal to the Purian interest, we can go back to the body, looking at the way that the arm is draped behind the head. Is this just comfort or the happiness of the kill, or is this really more of a sexualized, orgasmic look upon his face? Look at how his legs are positioned to put on display the genitals, versus in David we saw it was just a very upfront nude sculpture, of someone going into battle without clothing, but it wasn't, again, as I said before, your eyes didn't go to one place and stay. It was really kind of the entirety that you took in. Here, this is really meant to draw your attention to the genitals. And so we could say that there is some Purian interest here. Is it patently offensive? Different ways that you can go about analyzing this, from again, the way that he is portrayed lying on some type of bearskin rug, um, obviously putting his genitals on display, putting his body on display. Or to the no side, is it simply kind of a moment in time capture of a man who's resting after the kill? And art. Again, this is the one where we really kind of get hung up when we're talking about works of art dating from, either antiquity or the Middle Ages, that if they've lasted this long, often they're seen as great works of art, as this one is. So it's kind of hard to say that it does not have redeeming value, but we could say that you could argue that there is no redeeming value to this because it's just a naked man putting his genitals on display. It could be glorifying, violence, killing of animals. So there's many different tacks you could take to this. Um, almost for every single one of the things we're going to be looking at, you do have kind of a yes and no, and it's really you telling me, yes, this appeals to the period interest because. Every single one of the quiz answers need to have a because, and you give me a specific reason from the work or from the readings you've gone over. Is this patently offensive? Yes, because, or no, because. And does it lack redeeming value? Be careful of just saying that I wouldn't want my child to walk through and see this, because often art is not meant for 4-year-olds. Um, Art is often meant for an adult viewer. So looking at this, again, we could make an argument that it is to the prurient interest because of the display of genitals, the way the legs are open, the arm behind the head. It's patently offensive because it is meant to put the body on display, glorify the killing of the animal, and the passion that he is taking from that killing, the violence wrapped up in it. And does it have redeeming value? That's a little bit more difficult for you to work out, simply because it's up to you to decide whether this has some redeeming value. For the no column, we could say it is an accurate still life picture of a man who happens to be without clothing. Nudity is not necessarily obscene in and of itself. Is it patently offensive? Again, no, it's simply a man relaxing on some type of seat, and it just so happens that he's in a position so as we see his genitals, but it's not patently offensive because genitals in and of themselves are not patently offensive.